$200 in his pocket, and a mother who was dying slowly in a broken bed. He had a girl who loved him more than her own life, and a phone that was about to go silent forever. By the end of this day, John would lose everything he thought he had and discover exactly what he was truly made of. This is episode 2 of Silent Love, Loud Success. The fee deadline was tomorrow. John had known it for 3 weeks now. Every single night, he pulled out his old torn wallet and counted the same crumpled bills, hoping, praying that somehow the number would be different this time. It never was. $200. That's all he had, and the fee was $600. Across town, Lara walked through the college gates completely alone. No John beside her, just long, empty hallways, the sound of her own footsteps, and a phone clutched so tightly in her hand that her knuckles had turned white. She kept checking it every few minutes, praying for just one message. One, good morning. One, I'm sorry I'm late. There was nothing, not a single word. John sat outside the college gate that morning, his back against the cold iron fence, watching other students walk in, laughing, joking, carrying nothing heavier than their backpacks. He didn't move. He couldn't. Walking in without the fee meant walking in with his head down, facing the accountant's office, facing the whispers. He would rather sit outside in the sun all day than feel that kind of shame. Behind him, back at home, his mother's cough echoed through the thin walls of their small house. That sound, that weak, tired cough, had become the background music of John's entire life. He heard it in his sleep now. He heard it even when she wasn't coughing. That evening, John did something he had never done before in his life. He humbled himself completely and went from friend to friend, door to door, asking for a low one, not a big one, just enough to breathe for one more week. Every door gave him the same answer. Some made excuses about their own expenses. Some simply looked away, pretending they hadn't heard him properly. Some laughed it off like it was a joke. Pockets that were somehow always full for parties, for new shoes, for weekend outings, were suddenly, mysteriously, completely empty the moment John needed them. He walked home that night feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his life. But then there was Jack. Jack didn't have money either. Jack's family was barely surviving too. But Jack had something that money could never buy. Loyalty. Real, unshakable loyalty. He found John sitting alone near the old tea stall, staring at nothing, and sat down right beside him without saying a word at first. Then he put his hand on John's shoulder and said, "John, listen to me. We don't need to borrow money from people who don't even value us. We need to earn it ourselves. Go to your boss tomorrow. Ask him for an advance on your salary. He can cut it slowly, little by little, over the next few months. And in the evenings, after work, we'll set up a small fruit stand together at the corner of the main road. I'll take a loan from my job too. Between the two of us, John, we will cover your mother's treatment and your college fee. I'm not going to let you carry this alone. Not while I'm still breathing." For the first time in weeks, something shifted in John's chest. It wasn't happiness exactly. It was too heavy a day for that. But it was something close to hope. Something close to the feeling of not being completely alone in this war. He hugged Jack tightly, right there on the street, and for just a moment, he allowed himself to believe that things might actually be okay. But the very next day, John didn't show up to college again. Lara stood by the gate that morning, arms crossed tightly over her chest, jaw clenched, eyes scanning every face that walked past, hoping one of them would be his. Yesterday, he had promised her, "Tomorrow, let's go watch a movie together, just the two of us." A small promise. But that very night, everything changed. changed. John's mother's condition suddenly became much worse. Her fever rose dangerously, and before sunrise, John was rushing between caring for her, searching for money, and trying to save both his family and his future. The movie they had dreamed about never even had a chance to happen. A small promise. A normal, happy, ordinary couple kind of promise. The kind of promise that smiled the whole night before. He didn't come. She had no idea that his mother's fever had spiked violently that morning. She had no idea he had spent the entire day running back and forth between his boss's office, begging quietly for an advance, and the fruit stand with Jack, counting coins under the streetlights, praying they would somehow be enough. All Lara knew was silence, and to a heart that was already quietly afraid of being left behind, of not being enough, of being abandoned, silence feels exactly like betrayal. It feels like confirmation of every insecurity she had ever tried to bury. That night, John finally found a few minutes to breathe. His hands were sore from carrying fruit crates all evening, his shirt sticking to his back with sweat. But the first thing he did, the very first thing, was call her. She saw his name light up on her screen, and she let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times, 4. She didn't answer. Inside her, a storm was building, growing louder with every unanswered ring. If he really loved me, he would have found even 5 minutes for me. Just 5 minutes out of an entire day. That's all I ever asked for. She placed the phone face down on the table and pushed her dinner plate away without touching it. Her mother pleaded with her gently to eat something, anything, even a few bites. Lara just shook her head and stared at the wall. It was Messy, her little brother, barely a teenager himself, who finally sat beside her and coaxed a few small bites into her mouth, feeding his own sister like she was the child, and he was somehow the parent that night. Then Lara did something she would regret for the rest of her life. She reached for her phone, and with tears streaming silently down her face, she turned it off completely. Not silent mode, not do not disturb, off, gone. No way to reach her at all. Another day passed in complete silence. John kept trying to reach Lara whenever he found a fray momented for a message that never came. With every passing hour, the misunderstanding between them grew deeper. The next morning, John tried calling again, his heart pounding with a strange mix of guilt and desperation. The number you are trying to reach is currently switched off. His stomach dropped straight to the floor. In his mind, there was only one explanation that made any sense at all. She's blocked me. She's done with me. I've lost her. He stood frozen in the hallway, phone still pressed against his ear, even after the message ended, his heart quietly cracking apart in a building full of people who had absolutely no idea what he was carrying inside him. Still, he pushed forward. He went to his boss that morning, hope flickering weakly in his chest, ready to ask for the advance Jack had encouraged him to request. His boss barely even glanced up from the papers on his desk. You still haven't paid back the last loan I gave you, John. How exactly do you expect me to hand you another one? John's throat tightened so hard he could barely swallow. He nodded silently, said nothing back, and walked out of that office, straight into a sun that suddenly felt far too heavy on his shoulders, far too bright for a day this dark. He walked home slowly that afternoon, each step feeling like it weighed twice as much as the last. At home, his mother lay in bed with a damp cloth resting on her forehead, her breathing shallow, her face pale. John sat down gently beside her, taking her thin hand and pressing it softly against his own cheek, as if trying to absorb whatever strength she had left. "Why are you so worried, Beta?" she whispered weakly. "I'm fine." "No, Mom, you're not fine. Please get well soon. I don't have anyone else in this entire world except you." And then the boy who had been quietly holding an entire household together on his own shoulders, the boy who hadn't cried in front of anyone in years, not even when things had gotten this hard, finally broke completely. He cried like a small child in his mother's lap, all the exhaustion, all the shame, all the fear pouring out of him at once.